times again. For you, for you, for you, for you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the February edition of Impactful Conversations with Gayle Brown, where we showcase Black excellence. You know, sometimes we just need to be reminded. That's exactly why I started this LinkedIn Live. There was so much going on in the world 3 years ago, and I wanted to show where we could magnify and lift up all of the Black women we knew who were doing amazing things. And so we'll be doing that again a little bit later today. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Gayle Brown, equity leadership strategist, author, speaker, and CEO of an award-winning leadership development firm where I work with women of color to overcome challenges to equity in the workplace, challenges to pay equity, purpose, and leadership development. I work with them to overcome those challenges so that they may put their families on firmer financial footing. So at Guest Brown Impact, this is our vision statement. We have a vision for women standing in their power, speaking their truths, and commanding their world. And today we'll introduce you to someone who does just that. We truly believe at Guest Brown Impact that these leadership inequities are just the leadership challenges of our generation. If we can put a man on the moon, we can figure this out. It's just a matter of will. So let's get on with the show today. It's Black History Month, and it's Black History Month, and I do want to tell you that we have been celebrating Black History Month for about 47 years now. That is amazing, right? Back in 1976, we started. Every American president has officially designated the month a Black History Month. This annual celebration started to recognize the central role of U.S. history, our role in U.S. history, because Black history is American history, right? And initially, it started as Negro History Week. It was the brainchild of Carter G. Woodson and other prominent African Americans of that day. This celebration is celebrated in other countries, including Canada, as well as the UK. The thing I didn't know about Black History Month is there's a theme every year. Every American president designates a theme for Black History Month, and this year the theme is Black resistance. Powerful that they should designate that theme, right? Black resistance explores how African Americans have resisted historic and ongoing oppression in all forms, especially the racial terrorism of lynching and police killings that still persists today. But this has been going on since our nation's earliest history. So I want to tell you a little bit about my own Black history, the history of my family. A form of resistance is resisting assimilation, right? Resisting that, holding on to our history. It is my proud family history of entrepreneurship and preservation that fires me on today. So I was born in Germany. I have a military family, but I consider Sacramento home because we moved around until I went to college and high school here. So I consider Sacramento home. But I have deep Southern roots. And my father came from Arkansas. My mother came from Alabama, Birmingham, Alabama. But she is a descendant, and I am a descendant. My great-great-grandfather was Israel Jackson. Israel Jackson and his brothers changed their name from Neil to Jackson. And at the Emancipation Proclamation. At the Emancipation Proclamation, Israel Jackson was 18 years old, and he and his brothers decided to change their name from Neil to Jackson. Israel went on to marry Ann King and have 17 children. He managed to acquire 130 acres in Sprague, Alabama. That's in Montgomery County in Alabama. And they raised everything on their land for living, from fruits and vegetables to syrup, everything. You know, he had 17 kids, so he had his farmhands right there. But on that land, they built the community church and the community school, and the community school was on his land. I got a chance to go back there for our family reunion to Montgomery, Alabama this year and walk that land. And it was quite something to see Jackson Road and Jackson Cemetery there with the tombstones of all of my ancestors right there in this little fenced-in cemetery with the Jackson on the name of the fence. It was pretty incredible. I'd heard this history all my life because my family gets together every 2 years for a family reunion. So I'd heard about it, but it was something to see it with my own eyes, right? To see that history right there was quite something. But I said that to say this, that those values for God, for community, for family, for entrepreneurship, for education, go back 200 years in my family. And so knowing that history really helped me as I set out to start my own business 6 years ago. I looked at that history and I said, Gayle, if they can do that with what they dealt with back in that day, certainly you can figure out a way to have a business. And so I say that to say this, know your history. If you don't know your history, start asking questions. I didn't start asking questions about the family history until I was older. And so I hope I'm inspired you to go find out your family history, even the things we may not want to know about. Okay, I got to get back to our show. I could talk about my family history. I'm very proud of it, but I got to get back to our show. We have a theme today. Oh, hello, Carol. I see you, Antelope from Antelope. Thank you for joining us today. You're such a good, dear friend. I just love you. Thank you for joining us. But I want to tell you one thing. I have a special offer for Black History Month, and because we're on the heels of Women's Equal Pay Day, I'm offering Brand Your Brilliance and Negotiate. This is a free 7-day intensive where I will show you how to, there's some research that shows that 60% of women have never negotiated at work. Well, I can tell you that that's leaving a lot of money on the table. I understand that we may not feel like we have that skill set. And that's why I have this offer to help you, enunciate your value in the workplace, learn how to talk about that, and learn how to nail that negotiation. So we'll talk about this a little bit more later, but save your seat now at brandyourBrilliance.net. I'm investing in you, and I hope you will invest in yourself. I hope you will get somebody to keep the kids, get Nana to come over so that you can take your career to the next level. All right? Catapult your career with this training. It's absolutely free to you, and it's my pleasure to serve you with this. Thank you. All right, so that's my signal. I got to get back to our guest speaker today. She's amazing, and the theme of our show today is making diverse boards possible. And I couldn't have anybody on board better to talk about that than our guest speaker today. Jerushua Stewart is the CEO and co-founder of Take Your Seat, and she's on a mission of her own. Take Your Seat and their newest program, BOARDView, is all about taking the board curious to the board confident and helping BIPOC leaders to bring their best selves into the boardroom. We'll discuss Take Your Seat and their newest program, BOARDView. We'll discuss Jerushua. Let me tell you a little bit about Jerushua before we bring her into the room, because I have a bio here. And I've known Jerushua because I worked with her on Take Your Seat as a facilitator, and that was quite a joy. But I want to tell you a little bit about her. She is the founder, and she's the co-founder and CEO of Take Your Seat. which is a public benefit corporation, I should say, whose mission is to increase Black representation on boards, accelerate inclusivity, and improve corporate governance. She co-founded this organization in 2020 with David Baldwin and John Repogel of Burt's Bees and Seventh Generation. Their goal was simply to increase the number of Black directors on boards. Since the company's founding, Jerushua has partnered with dozens of public and private companies, including PNC Bank, Fifth Serve, Boston Consultant Group, and B Labs of US and Canada. She's a sought-after keynote speaker, an expert source of national media outlets, and has been featured on Wall Street Journal. She's been featured on Wall Street Journal. I can't say that a lot about my guest. Financial Times, Bloomberg, NPR's Marketplace, and Cheddar Media, amongst others. She's also a member of the NASDAQ Center for Board Excellence, their Insight Council. Jerushua is very passionate about solving inequities through mission-focused entrepreneurial initiatives. She holds a BA from Stanford and a Juris Doctorate from Stanford Law School. Jerushua lives in Vero Beach, Florida, and she's joining us today from sunny Vero Beach. Let's bring Jerushua on. Welcome, Jerushua.
Welcome, welcome. Thank you so much. Great to see you again, Gayle.
Nice to see you. You look beautiful in your yellow.
Hey, Sunshine State.
Yeah, absolutely.
Gotta represent.
Absolutely. Jerushua, I want people to know you beyond your very impressive credentials and your work. So I want to start first with the name, right? Jerushua is an unusual name. I'm sure it has a story. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, I'll be happy to. I love my name, first of all, so I'm going to start there. My parents were expecting a boy. So they didn't pick out any girl names. They were very sure that they were going to have a boy. And so they bet my grandmother that if I was a girl, she could name me.
Oh,
so, yeah. So as the story is told in our family, when they brought me to my mother in the hospital and said, Mrs. Stewart, here's your beautiful baby girl, my mom got so upset. She was like, it's not mine. I ordered a boy. It's not
mine. I ordered a boy. Oh my goodness.
So they took me away. She calmed down. My grandmother brought me back and said, look, isn't Jerushua beautiful?
Oh.
My father would tell you he got two things he didn't want, a girl and a Jerushua.
Oh.
And because they don't use the name. They didn't really like the name, but I love it. And I actually found out when I was grown what the meaning is. So it's a Hebrew word, Yerusha, which means the inheritance of the divine right of the people.
Wow.
So I live
that's quite a moniker.
Yes, it is.
All right, let's say that again.
Inheritance of the divine right of the people. So it is my mission in life to live into my name.
Awesome. That is an awesome name. I haven't heard that before, but I believe I would use it as a moniker. Right? It's your name. That is awesome.
And they don't use it.
How did you grow to love it with that kind of foray into it, with the parents not liking it and whatnot? How did you grow to love it?
Well, it was my grandmother's name.
Yeah.
And I loved my grandmother. And even though my parents didn't use it, I always promised my grandmother that I would respect her name. And I love, and you have to remember, I grew up in Hawaii, right?
That's right.
And so a lot of the name, we only have 12 letters, 7 of them are vowels in the Hawaiian language. Okay. So my name sounds very much like what I would hear around me.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. You brought up Hawaii, and I'd love for when I bring people on to learn a little bit about their people and their heritage. Tell me about how your family came to be in Hawaii.
So we came to be in Hawaii like a lot of Black families at the time. My dad was in the military and he had gone in underage. And so he retired there. They decided that that's where they wanted to raise their family. Beautiful place. And we were the only Black family in our neighborhood, but we were very quickly accepted once the neighbors found out that my parents were teachers, because in the Asian culture, of course, education is highly valued.
Right.
And we all did very well in school. In fact, one of my younger sisters was the #1 Japanese language student in our high school.
Wow.
Which is very difficult to do. She was committed, right?
She was committed.
And we all embraced the culture in our own way. I and one of my other younger sisters would be what you'd, I guess, call pageant girls. So I was second runner-up Miss Teenage Hawaii, and my other sister was Miss Waikiki and first runner-up Miss Hawaii.
Brains and beauty. You can't beat that combination.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
I'll take that.
Yeah. And so in Hawaii, so you felt very much Hawaiian. How did you begin to embrace your African-American history?
Well, I think part of it is I'm being in Hawaii, so we were not as close to the African-American side of our family. But one of the things about the Hawaiian culture, right, is that sense of aloha. So aloha is all about belonging. So I grew up with DEIB my entire life. So part of that is they bring their culture, you bring your culture.
That's very much like that in Hawaii. I got to work in Hawaii for 3 years, and the Polynesian people are just so warm. They're incredibly warm and welcoming people. I did not want to leave. I'm telling you. And the Hawaii itself is beautiful. You know, the island itself. One little known fact about me people may not know is I love the dance so much that I found there was a Hawaiian dance troupe in my neighborhood, around the corner from my neighborhood, and I began to practice with them. And then I began to dance with them for about 5 years. So I love the people. I love the dance. Even the music is beautiful.
Well, I'm going to make you very jealous right now.
Okay, tell me.
Because I am going back to Hawaii in April for the Merry Monarch Festival. Oh yeah!
Oh my God!
It's the 50th anniversary of the largest hula festival in the world. Everybody
and you're taking me instead of your husband? Is that what you? That's
yeah, you're right.
You're taking me instead of your husband. He doesn't need to go. He doesn't even appreciate it.
Yeah, he wouldn't. He wouldn't know what he was watching, right?
He wouldn't know. Look at us. Come on. When is that? When is that happening?
So that is happening April 12th through the 16th.
I am available. I just checked my phone.
So you are available, but you know what's not? Are tickets. The tickets to the event are handed out by lottery.
That's right.
So back in December, we applied to get tickets and kept our fingers crossed, and they arrived in the mail.
Awesome. I'm happy for you.
I'm going. My sister's going, and my best friend from high school.
Oh, how fun. That's going to be such a great time. Tell them what the Merry Monarch Festival is.
So the Merry Monarch Festival, it's the most incredible exhibition of hula and Polynesian dance from that whole island chain, but all of Polynesia. And it's just so amazing because it's all the traditional dances. The men are dancing, they're chanting. Oh, and we just found out that there is a huge shopping extravaganza that happens outside the stadium.
I bet. That doesn't surprise me at all.
Well, my best friend, she's so excited. I didn't even know about that part. I do have an instrument, a Hawaiian instrument, my ipu. I wish I brought it today. I keep it in my office to remind me of home and the diversity that I bring to the diversity movement. Did
you grow up your whole formative years in Hawaii?
Oh, yes. I came to the mainland for college. So I came to go to Stanford and went to Stanford actually because the woman who what became Miss Teenage Hawaii the year that I competed, she went to Stanford. And so she came back and spoke at my high school, and I decided to apply. And Hawaii, and it's interesting because Punahou sends the largest number of high school students to Stanford. So I had plenty of company people from Hawaii.
Awesome. Wow. They're doing education right in Hawaii.
We like to think so.
I see Vivi, V is on the phone, or she's listening in. She's in her truck with James. Hi, V and James. So nice of you to listen in. Thank you for joining us today. I hope you win something. So put their names in the raffle. Thank you for joining me. All right. Well, it's been so nice to hear your family background. I've worked with you for over a year. I did not know that. So awesome. I knew you were from Hawaii, but good to hear all those details. Jerushua, tell us a little bit about your journey to take your seat and your mission and why. Why this mission out of all the missions you can have?
You know, it's funny. I've had quite a few missions and visions in my life, and they've all been the thing that kind of ties them all together is having access to some kind of, I would say, opportunity or well, let's just say life, right? And it kind of started very young with me actually putting myself through law school as a clothing designer and ending up opening and starting one of the first body positive clothing ventures, the Adventures of Jerushua. And I had stores, we did the manufacturing, we carried sizes from extra small to 4X, 4'11" to 6'4". We had 64 pattern sizes.
Yeah, because you're quite tall, right?
Well, I personally am only 5'8". I like to feel like I'm 6 feet. That was always my dream.
5'8" is tall. You know, the average woman is 5'5".
Right. Yes, I have 3 younger sisters who are 4'11" to about 5'3", I think.
Wow.
So we carry the range there. But my career has kind of led me to look at people who aren't necessarily being treated the same as others when it comes to access, whether it's to consumer products or education. And before Take Your Seat, the last thing I produced was the Vero Beach Film Festival. So I was one of the only Black founders of a mass market film festival. It was recognized as a top 100 out of 8,000 worldwide its first year, and went on to be called the Summer Sundance by the HuffPost. Wow. So having a film festival allowed me to put the spotlight on BIPOC filmmakers. And actually for a Black History Month celebration I actually got to do a watch party during the pandemic where we showcased a dozen films with either Black actors as the title, the title person, where it was produced, directed. So when Take Your Seat was coming along, I had a friend in Vero Beach where I live who heard about this venture. She was friends with one of the founders, and John Rapogel, who was looking for someone to lead. So what happened is his friend, David Baldwin, stepped down off of a board. The CEO of the organization, the One Club for Creativity, which is like the Oscars for marketing folks, asked David to step down and then asked him to nominate a Black woman, which he did. Then David went to another board member who was also Caucasian and asked him to do the same thing. This is all occurring in the aftermath of George Floyd's murder, when they wanted to do something stronger than just have a marketing campaign.
Nice.
And then our mutual friend here in Vero Beach brought us together with the opportunity for me being to lead this and to get it out into the world and have it make an impact. And I have just been thrilled, amazed, uh, just overjoyed and just constantly we're challenged with how we have this expressed, how this makes a mark, how we add to the momentum of DEIB at the board level, because that's our charge.
Yeah, that's your charge. Now take your seat. When I was involved with Take Your Seat, help me. You're looking at it from both ends. Take Your Seat is about preparing boards to receive diversity, and BOARDView is about preparing the pipeline to be board members.
So we are primarily a leadership training company, right? And our focus has been at the board level. And we started out like a lot of ventures where we were focused on diversity. And then we realized very quickly that in order for diversity to be effective, you had to make the number count. So then we leaned into inclusivity. And we became one of the first companies to offer diversity and inclusivity training at the board level. So we created the Inclusive Leadership Series, where we were very blessed to have your talents as a facilitator. And that also brought us to the attention of the NASDAQ, that at that time, as you may remember, they had just promoted that rule with the SEC. They'd just gotten that new rule passed on diversity and inclusivity for boards. So
but I do remember, but for our members, for our listeners, please elaborate.
Oh, yes, of course. So last year, NASDAQ proposed to the SEC that there should be a rule that required let's just say had boards recognize and track and acknowledge having diverse members on their board. Because here's one of the things about diversity and the whole pipeline and everything, because nothing was ever counted, nobody actually knew what the baseline is for this. And we all know that what gets counted gets done, right? So what I love about what the NASDAQ did in terms of proposing this rule that said you had to have a certain number of members from a racial and cultural group, you had to have women, you had to have LGBTQ+, is that it actually placed value on diversity. Yes. See, up until that point, yes, it was a nice to have, right?
Right.
But when they actually recognized it, it gave it value, and it gave it value because it was recognized by the largest, one of the largest capitalistic institutions in the world.
Yeah, good point. That the NASDAQ calling that out for sure. What is the state of that now? Has it been rescinded?
Nope. It's been challenged. It has not been rescinded. The New York Stock Exchange has chosen not to implement a rule at their exchange. They've decided to let the market determine what will happen, whether companies will get their investors if they're not diverse. We're seeing, of course, now, what's so crazy about all of this is there's so much documentation in terms of diversity driving better outcomes, racial diversity in particular, and companies. Your companies perform 36% better if they have a racially diverse boardroom.
And they're inclusive and there's equity. You can't just add diversity and stir, right? You have to make those environments inclusive and they have to be equitable environments. Then they see the benefits.
And we should talk about what that means at the board level just for a minute, so that everyone understands that. So when you're nominated and you're invited to sit on a corporate board, you are a peer. Everybody on that board has one vote. Everybody is at the same level. The chair is no higher than any other member of the board. What that also means is that from an inclusive standpoint, it is the duty of that chair to make sure that every voice is heard, and everyone is on that board, not because they're Black or a woman or disabled, they're on that board because they bring a certain skill set and knowledge set to that board, so that that company and that CEO and his team can leverage that to direct the efforts of the company to be more profitable.
Right.
So that's why the inclusivity piece is so important.
Absolutely. I want to invite anyone who's listening, our listeners, to bring their questions into the room. You know, Jerushua works on both sides of these equations, both in helping boards to be more diverse and also to replenish the funnel or create the funnel for having more diversity on boards. Can you talk a little bit about BOARDView and your mission there? And I know you're just kicking it off. You just had just the first one, right? The first one. And you have a series of 4, I believe?
3.
Okay, tell us about BOARDView.
I'd love to. BOARDView has been a vision of take your seat from the beginning to actually create one of the largest educational experiences for BIPOC leaders who would like to pursue board service. So this current class, we have over 150 registered participants. It's 3 days, 3 Saturdays, once a month, 4 hours. We just completed the January day. Next Saturday is the second session in February.
What time?
So it starts at 11 a.m. Eastern time and goes to 3 p.m. And the first session was phenomenal.
It was. I got a chance to see a little bit of that. That was great.
The energy and engagement was over the top. Everyone stayed the entire time.
Right.
They were so embraced the knowledge that our speakers had to give and each other. You know, one of the biggest comments and one of our biggest goals with this was to expand your network. So when we talk about BOARDView, we talk about taking the board curious to the board confident. The whole purpose of this exercise was to give you a 30,000-foot view of how to set up your personal board service journey and to know who needs to be in that ecosystem with you, to kind of give you an idea of what the landscape should look like. And if nothing else, I mean, I love the fact that 2 of the big learnings everyone's getting is, number 1, getting on a board does not happen quickly, automatically, like tomorrow. And 2, it's not about who you know, it's about who knows you.
Say a little bit more about that. It's not about who you know, it's about who knows you. Say more about that.
Because it's an ecosystem that not everyone wants to sit on a board, right? Yeah. Just like not everyone wants to be the CEO of a company, not everyone wants to rise to being the vice president of a company or even to start a company, right? To be an entrepreneur. So in all of these scenarios, it's very important to realize that you should be in an ecosystem where others know what your goal is so they can help you achieve it. If they don't know, they can't support you in getting what you want. And it's kind of funny. I used to be a singles author, and I would say the same thing about being married. If you're single and you want to get married, you have to tell everyone you know that goal, because you don't know who they could put you in front of. Same thing with getting a board seat.
Same thing. You know, I was, you know, when I facilitated with you at Take Your Seat, I was a little bit about shocked about how hard it is to get on a paid board and how many times they just use the same people. Like, you know, there would be one person, African-American, sister or brother on 5 boards because.
Yes. And that is one of the biggest issues that we currently have. The SEC is actually looking at that right now, overboarding. They're going to come down with probably a rule on that because you can't possibly serve all of these companies. I mean, this takes a lot of time because you have a fiduciary duty to create income and to, the direction, the strategic direction of the companies, right? And your board book, it's not unusual for them to be hundreds of pages long. And then, by the way, most of the work that's done is not done at the board meetings, which are quarterly. It's done in committees. And, the sad fact is, a part of me feels like we've replicated the old, what they called the whisper campaign. We just now have a chocolate whisper campaign. Yeah. And it's important to expand these networks so that more people can serve. This to me is about being of service in your community. There are Black businesses, there are multi-million-dollar Black companies that could use our talents. It's not something that should be kept by a small group of people. Plus, they're finding now with succession planning is becoming one of the biggest things on boards. And what is succession planning? That is this idea that you're looking at your board and how long people have been on the board and what's going to happen when this person leaves, and starting to think about in your, what talents you're going to need the next round. I also want to kind of poke a hole in this myth about paid versus non-paid, nonprofit versus, there are nonprofit boards that you will be paid for. And in fact, I was recently speaking with a board member who's going to be speaking at BOARDView next Saturday. And she'll tell you her favorite board is her nonprofit board, where she gets paid more than her for-profit board. She actually spoke about a board opportunity that I happened to be on the call at the time, where it is for another such a foundation where it's for life if you're on this particular nonprofit entity's board and you're paid. So part of what we're doing at BOARDView, myth busting, opening the aperture for candidates in terms of what they may know about the landscape of board service, giving everyone a reality check of what can really happen what happens out there, what happens out there and what happens in the room. Okay.
Right. In the room where it happens. Hey, tell us about the nonprofit board that pays. I've been on nonprofit boards and they have a stipulation that you cannot be paid. So what kinds of nonprofit boards offer payment?
Oh, I'm just going to tease that one up. If you want to find out more, you're going to have to come to BOARDView and hear it from the horse's mouth. Have them tell you all the ins and outs and how that works.
Awesome.
The only thing I'm going to throw out there is that there are foundation boards that pay. And by the way, the stipulation that the boards can't pay, it's a legal, thing. So it depends on how that particular organization is chartered.
Yeah, it does. So it depends what's in their bylaws, right?
Yeah, don't paint it with a wide brush.
All right, I love that. Hey, I have another question for you. I had this question come up and I didn't know how to answer it. So, we know that boards are looking for leaders, but in the tech field, you can be quite a significant contributor to tech as an individual contributor, and with your technical knowledge and expertise and whatnot. Do boards also hire people who are not in leadership? Is that among the people they recruit for their technical knowledge?
I'm going to say that what you're talking about is this whole frame around boards wanting to have CEOs or people from the C-suite. Right. I have actually done a board search where the CEO requested that the person not be from the C-suite. He was looking for someone with a more entrepreneurial bent, and he did not want someone who was going to be totally focused on strategy.
Right.
He wanted to have some deep operational skills in different parts of the business. So this really depends. I'll say a couple of things in terms of trends.
Yeah.
So this past year, I think it's 43% of board members on public companies were first-time directors.
First-time directors. Wow.
Okay, so they had no board experience.
Wow.
A very high percentage of that number did not come from the C-suite.
Very nice.
So, and then when it comes to tech, oh gosh, they're definitely looking for people with, I will say, cybersecurity skills, of course, with digital e-commerce skills. The world has changed. And when you think about it, the average board tenure is like 8 to 10 years. Yeah. So the people who are sitting on this board right now did not, they didn't know how to handle the pandemic, supply chain. None of these were issues that when they were in the C-suite that they came up against. So that's one of the reasons we're now seeing boards reach beyond the C-suite, because they need current skill sets. Now, let me just say, so everybody understands this. When you are a board member, it's noses in, hands out. So you bring your operational expertise to that board, but your job is not to do the work. As one of my favorite friends who sits on the board of the NASDAQ says, Kathy Card-Beckles, your job is to ask questions. It's to ask clarifying questions.
I can do that.
That's what good board members do.
I can do that. I'm a coach.
Yes, exactly.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you for bringing that. Is there anything you want to say more about Take Your Seat? Because we talked quite a bit about BOARDView. Is there anything more you want to say about Take Your Seat?
Well, I do want to say that Take Your Seat, I love the fact, and what people see in us is that we're an incredible space for people who want to learn. Mm-hmm. If you want to gain the knowledge and to be involved in a lifelong learning community, take your seat. Take your seat at Take Your Seat. We're the place for you.
Awesome.
Our partners are amazing. I mean, we're right now in the process of working with the NASDAQ to create a series of live events across the country to introduce directors to the candidates, to the aspiring directors.
And that's really takeyourseat.org?
Excuse me?
Is that takeyourseat.org?
Oh, takeyourseat.co. So takeyourseat.co.
Thank you.
But we really believe relationships are the remedy to racism. So building relationships in this arena where you would like to serve, that's our mission.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Happy to be connected to you that way. I found that to be a great community. Thank you for dropping takeyourseat.co in the chat. Thank you. Appreciate that. All right, Jerusha, I think we need to take, before I leave though, I want to ask you if there are any slogans or mottos that you live by and why.
Wow. Okay, so let me think about that. I would say probably a big one that I've always, ever since I was young, first with high school, I saw this. If I can see it, I can be it.
Right. Yes.
So if you can vision it, and everything I've done in life, that's pretty much how I roll. I get to a place of crystal clear, specific, like with, what I want you to feel when you're involved, just like with Take Your Seat. And the programs, it's an experience, right?
Yes.
So what I want you to experience, how I want you to feel, who do I want you to meet, how, all of that. And we would say the same, great advice for if you're looking to be on a board. Be very specific. See the company you want to serve. See the board that you want to serve on. What kinds of issues are they talking about? How are you going to add value? The more specific, it's almost like you're building that dream that will become that reality. So I would say that that's probably my biggest one. I also, a lot of times, when things are rough, I say, feed your faiths, not your fears. Feed your faith, not your fears.
I like
That's
that
what's going
too.
to get you ahead.
That's what's going to keep you moving in the right direction, right?
Exactly.
I see Paula Jacobs is in the house. I like that too, Paula. Relationships are the remedy to racism. That's a good saying, Jerusha. I think I'm going to have to steal that one.
Take it, spread it around.
All right.
And
I'll
there's
quote
one
you.
other.
I'll quote you, and I'll quote you behind it. Yeah.
And there's one other thing I would say, because of what you talked about earlier, and just people, because I have a sense, especially in terms of things like negotiating your salary and getting ahead. You also have to, I say to myself, what I want is outside my comfort zone, or I'd already have it. Okay?
Right.
So if you want to make more money, chances are you haven't asked for it, right? Why haven't you asked for it? Because it's a little uncomfortable and you're not really sure how to do it. Well, staying in your comfort zone is not going to get you what you want. Otherwise, you'd already have it. And that is what I think differentiates leaders, is their willingness to step outside of their comfort zone to have the vision happen that they say they want.
I love it. So staying in your comfort zone is not going to get you to where you want to be, because you'd already have it. You're in your comfort zone. To get outside of your comfort zone, to get that raise, that promotion,
that relationship, that job, that house, whatever it is.
Whatever that business, whatever it is you want to create.
You will have to stretch.
Yes.
And stretching is growth. And stretching is learning. And actually, to be honest, stretching is fun. I mean, one of my things is, work with really smart people, make history, and have more fun than you ever thought possible.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that.
And
work with really smart people.
I say that we are history in the making.
Absolutely. You are Black history being made today.
You are Black history being made today.
Yeah, so you are a very appropriate guest for Black History Month, because I don't think, honestly, there has been an effort to get more Black people on boards like yours.
Well, and it's interesting. I won't say that, to be honest. We talk a lot about co-opetition. It's going to take many of us marching in the same direction to have this happen. Each of us, interestingly enough, sees it, works this from a different perspective. So take your seat.
I was going to ask you, how did you differentiate yourself from others? Because your bent is a little bit different. Your slant is a little bit different.
Yes. So we all have a different slice of this mission of bringing diversity and inclusivity to boards. I mean, we are what we call a reciprocal education environment, right? Mm-hmm. So we are one of the few that educates both sides of that table. The new board director, the old board director, the aspiring director. So that's our charge. We also look at the entire landscape in the sense that we don't eliminate you because you haven't reached a certain stature in your career.
Right.
So whereas other organizations focus on how close are you to actually being board ready, we've found that even the people who are board ready may have some some mythology around the process that they need to be educated about. And some people who others may not consider to be board ready are the people who get tapped on the shoulder because of what they are able to bring to the board. So we don't want to be exclusive. Even in this round, this march forward, we didn't want to be exclusive to who might want to be of service. Because I loved Martin Luther King's words when he said, the most important question that you can ask is, how can I be of service?
Right. And
So-
he also said, everybody wants to be great, and everybody can be great because everybody can serve.
Exactly.
And I love the way you call it board service, because, you know, everybody looks at the monetary gain from the fees you'll get, but it is service.
It is
It
service.
is literally service. So you
And-
will,
and
that money doesn't come for free. You are
Right.
serving the board, right?
Well, and the other reason we want you to have a mindset of service is because if you show up at the board with the mindset of money, they're going to see that
Yeah,
and turn you away.
right.
Because what are they focused on? What value can you add to that table?
And value,
they're
how
not
do you,
just there to pay
and you have to be able to communicate your value, right?
Right. And that's
Absolutely.
something else that we're focused on at BOARDView. Day 3, you will have a whole session on how to present yourself, how to present yourself online, how to build your board bio and your board resume, all of the things that are important in terms of how you represent yourself
Awesome.
in the board service landscape.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jerushua, for joining us today. I hate to turn this or to scale this back, but I do know we have some raffle prizes to give away. I want to award and celebrate the people who do take time to join us on Saturdays when they can be doing a number of other things. So if you don't mind, we'll take a little break right here to do raffles, unless you want to say one other thing before we go.
I want to say that probably everyone watching, listening, you have something of value that you can contribute to a company to create wealth in our community.
Okay.
And that is why we're doing what we do. So if you've ever thought about this, want to consider board service, come to BOARDView. Check out Take Your Seat. Share us with others, because this is how we create wealth for the next generation.
Carolyn Jackson is in the house. Hey, Carolyn. Thank you for joining us. I hope you're paying attention to Jerushua. She says everybody has something to contribute. Check out BOARDView. All right, and Ernest is going to drop that in the chat again, BOARDView, the link to check out BOARDView. But right now, we're going to, thank you for joining us, Jerushua. We're going to, don't go anywhere though. We're going to talk about raffle prizes, and Jerushua has been generous enough to donate 2 raffle prizes. So we're going to hear a little bit about her raffle prizes right now.
And thank you so much for having me, Gayle. I love to give away great stuff.
Yeah.
So the first raffle prize is one of my favorite books. It's by best-selling author Dambisa Moyo. She is out of the United Kingdom and actually is a baroness. She has a lifetime peerage. She was the first Black board member and the youngest when she became a board member. And she's phenomenal. She's written about 5 books and they've all been bestsellers. And she's got her finger on the pulse as to what it really means to sit in a boardroom. Like, what happens when the CEO of the company dies?
Right.
What happens when that company that you sit on the board of needs to go bankrupt? How do you acquire a $500 million other company? And should you? What do those decisions look like? So she talks about all of these experiences that she's had in this book.
All right. Thank you so much. So that is the first book we're going to give away. Please put your name in the chat if you're interested in winning any of these books. And then there is the Take Your Seat journal. Tell us what that's about.
Yes, this is amazing. You have to have one of these. Put your name in the chat. You're going to love the Take Your Seat journal. Everyone who gets this journal talks to us about how cool it is in terms of recording their thoughts and dreams and ideas to go forward. It's a gratitude journal, so it has a place to record the things that you're grateful for, because we all know that coming from a place of gratitude is so much easier. It's the only place where you can create abundance, and it is the only place where negativity cannot live. So negativity and gratitude they can't be in the same space. So this journal has a place for that. It has a place, of course, for notes. It has a place for your monthly overview of what you plan to do that month to hold yourself accountable to. And I am just thrilled to be able to give one of these away today.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your generosity. Ernest is getting those names together. I am giving away my book as well. And this is Girl Get It Right, an impact guide to creating the life and work you dreamed of. And this is literally an impact guide for someone who wants to make a change and for the better, for the one little life they have been given. So if you want to be purposeful about this life and you want to change your direction and trajectory, this book will help you do that. So put your name in the chat if you're interested in reading and getting a copy of Girl Get It Right. All right, so give us 30 seconds. I promise no longer than that. We'll just be gone really quickly to get these names together. Announce winners. All right, we are ready. We've got some winners in the house. Hello. Thank you for joining us, James Henry. You are in winning. You have won How Boards Work. Thank you very much. And Carolyn Jackson, thank you, my friend, for joining us. You have run the board journal. Thank you so much. And maybe I'll switch these around because I know Paula already has. Paula, you have won Girl Get It Right, but let's switch this up. Let's see. Oh, gosh, I don't know what to do here. I know Paula already has Girl Get It Right. All right, perhaps, Paula, I have a copy of the board journal. I will give you my copy of the board journal so that you don't have to have two copies of Girl Get It Right. So thank you. So,
wait,
yeah.
I don't want you to have to give up your copy of the Take Your Seat journal. So I'll give her a copy of the journal because you can't buy it. The only way you can get it is if I give it to you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Thank you, Jerusha. You have been the best guest. I thank you for your time today. And I wish you so much success. All right. All right. Okay. That's what's going down. Paula and Carolyn get the gratitude journal, and James gets the book. Oh, we have 3 books. We had 2 books. What are we doing? So let me see the books. Let me see the winners. How board works. James won that one. And the next one, oh, the gratitude journal. Yep, that's what it is. And 2 gratitude journals. All right. Thank you so much.
We are good.
We are good. Thank you so much. All right. I am going to wrap this show up. Thank you for joining us today. We have a few more announcements today. You know, for the first time, we are going to, in honor of Black History Month, Guest Brown Impact is hosting a national African American reading event. I hope you will all join us at Underground Books. This is our local Black bookstore, beautiful bookstore. Mother Rose is the owner of that book, and so I hope you will join us for that. National African American Read In event was founded by the National Council of English Teachers in 1990. They want to acknowledge the fact that they wanted to celebrate Black authors, and there could be no other better place to do that than Underground Books. So I hope you will join us there. The book we're going to be talking about is this one by April Ryan, White House correspondent. Black Women Will Save the World, an anthem. She does a beautiful job of celebrating our contributions to this society. And sometimes we just need to be reminded, I'm telling you. So come out and celebrate Black women and their accomplishments. Get your book from Underground Bookstore so that we can support Mother Rose and her efforts there. We don't ever want that bookstore to disappear, so we have to patronize it. Get your book there and reserve your seat today. Please drop a link in the chat so people can reserve their seat. Please reserve your seat by today or tomorrow. It says February 18th, but I'll forgive you. I'll give you an extra day. Go ahead and get registered to join us there. We have limited seating. That's the only reason we need to. It's completely free, but we need to have limited seating for that space in there. Thank you. Next up, I want to talk about my special offer. I want to talk about the fact that, to have some of the nicer things in life, to correct this pay equity, we have to learn how to advocate for ourselves and how to negotiate at work. I couldn't believe the statistic that said 60% of Black women had not negotiated at work, and 72% would leave the company for better pay, for more pay. So not only would we not negotiate, but we would rather leave the company than to negotiate. And I know this is not a skill set that comes easily, but it's something that can be learned. So we just need to be more comfortable about that. Jerushua has already said, if it were possible in your comfort zone, you'd already have it. So we have to stretch a little bit, get outside our comfort zone and learn how to do this. You can catapult your career. You can learn to nail the negotiation and how to enunciate your value in the workplace. So join me for this Brand Your Brilliance and negotiate a free 7-day virtual experience. You can join me from across the country. If you've got cousins that are languishing at work, send them this link, brandyourbrilliance.net. So let's take care of this. You know there's a lot of inequities in the workplace, but let's do our part. Our part is speaking and advocating for ourselves and learning to negotiate. That's our part. All right, let's do it. Get somebody to take care of the kids. Join me on Saturday evening at 6 o'clock, and we will make it worth your while. All right, take care, and I will see you again next time. Next up on Brand Your Brilliance, next up on Impactful Conversation, we will have the amazing sister from Weave. What is her name? I know her. I can see her face in front of me. Tamisha Wash, none other than the amazing Tamisha Wash. She's a local girl. She's been working for many years to help those who are struggling, families who are struggling with domestic violence and abuse. to be seen and heard and find a way out. I call her the local Harriet Tubman, as she works with people to liberate them from those situations, the binds of domestic violence. All right, so join us next week to hear from Tamisa Walsh. She's an amazing young sister, and we'll see you on March 18th at 11:30. All right, ciao for now. Have a great African American History Month, and do something to celebrate your folks. Read Black authors, go to Black events. There's so much going on in Sacramento. So take care, and I'll talk to you soon. Ciao.
And I'll rise up, rise like the day, I'll rise.